The clash of steel echoes in the air, sharp and deafening. Richard the Lionheart stands amidst the chaos of the battlefield, blood-soaked and weary, his golden armor dulled by the grime of war. All around him, the screams of wounded men and the roar of charging knights blend into a haunting symphony. In this moment, the promise of victory hangs by a thread, teetering on the edge of chaos. His gaze is locked on the distant horizon, where the sun casts its dying light over the city of Acre, a once proud stronghold now on the brink of collapse. A shout pierces his thoughts. A knight, breathless and frantic, pushes through the throng to deliver the news: the enemy is regrouping. The shadow of defeat looms large, and with it, the weight of betrayal by those he once called allies. How did it come to this? Richard wonders, heart pounding, as the realization strikes him: his forces, once united in purpose, are now scattered. His men are beginning to lose hope, teetering on the cusp of despair. The crusade, the very mission that has driven him across seas and into the heart of conflict, now hangs in the balance. His breath quickens. If he cannot rally his men, everything he has fought for will slip through his fingers like sand. The cries of his compatriots become a dull roar in his ears as he steels himself for what must come next. Victory has never tasted so bittersweet. But the turmoil around Richard is just the surface of a deeper crack in his forces. Supplies are dwindling. And whispers of dissent travel like wildfire among the ranks. Divisions, once masked by the shared glory of battle, now lay bare their festering wounds. "Why do we follow a king who rides into battle while we suffer?" a young squire mutters to his comrades under the cover of night, embers reflecting the flicker of doubt in his eyes. "His glory blinds him to our sacrifice. We deserve better." Richard can sense the undercurrents of discontent, the subtle shifts in loyalty that threaten to topple his carefully constructed empire of men. As he stands at the pinnacle of his power, a question lurks in the shadows of his mind: has he become the very tyrant he fought against? Time is a cruel adversary. Each moment that passes without decisive action digs a deeper grave for hope. Fears of betrayal gnaw at Richard's resolve, and as he contemplates his next move, the weight of leadership grows heavier. His heart races, the pressure mounts. Then, as if summoned from the depths of despair, an idea strikes him with clarity. We must take Acre. We must capture the city before they can regroup. Rally the men. The command bursts forth, loud and commanding, cutting through the growing disillusionment. But as the words leave his lips, Richard feels the roots of doubt tug at his heart. Was it rash? The Crusaders had spent months besieging Acre, and now, with supplies running low, could he really afford another engagement? Yet this was their strongest position. If he could take Acre, he could turn the tide of the war and restore unity among his people. "Let the banners fly," he bellows, his voice echoing through the exhausted ranks. "This day, we shall fight for our honor, for the Holy Land." The men cheer, hesitant but hopeful. They look to him, their king, their lion-hearted leader, and for a moment, he believes he can rally their spirits. But deep within, a nagging fear lingers: what if this decision would only deepen their despair? As night cloaks the battlefield, Richard devises a cunning strategy. "We'll launch a surprise assault at dawn," he instructs his commanders, drawing in the sand. "If we catch them unprepared, we'll break their defenses before they can mount a response." The strategy is bold, perhaps too bold, but desperation breeds daring. Richard believes firmly that shock and speed will bring them success. But the air is thick with uncertainty, each man knows the consequences of failure. As they strategize, Richard recalls the tales of his predecessors, kings who made decisions shrouded in glory, only to fall prey to hubris. He vows to remain vigilant against the creeping arrogance that power can instill, but there's a flicker of pride in his chest: the king should lead from the front, not from a distance. Dawn approaches, a fragile promise hanging in the balance. Richard feels the weight of his men's expectations, but above all, the weight of his own ambitions. Will his vision save them, or will it be the spark that ignites their downfall? Dawn breaks over the horizon, a red hue staining the sky, foreboding or a harbinger of victory, Richard cannot tell. The air is thick with tension as the Crusaders stand shoulder to shoulder, swords drawn, eyes fixed on the enemy lines. The camp is alive with nervous energy, the scent of sweat mingling with the cool morning breeze. "On my mark!" Richard shouts, adrenaline coursing through his veins. The moment stretches out, eternity contained in a heartbeat. Then the trumpet calls. With a roar, the Crusaders surge forward, a tide of humanity crashing against the walls of Acre. Richard leads from the front, his sword raised high, an emblem of hope in a sea of uncertainty. Clashes of armor ring in his ears, the chaotic symphony of war, swallowing every other sound. But as the battle rages, Richard's heart sinks. The enemy is ready, fortified, their defense is stronger than anticipated. Push forward, he bellows, desperation clawing at him. Yet with every step, he can see his men faltering, the initial surge of courage waning as they meet the fierce resistance of the defenders. The tide of war shifts, fear seeps into the hearts of Richard's soldiers, and he knows, this is not just a battle for land. It is a battle for their very souls. As the sun climbs higher, casting stark shadows on the battlefield, Richard's heart sinks into despair. The cries of his men become a haunting chorus, echoing the pain of defeat. The very strategy he devised begins to unravel. Reports come in, commanders he entrusted waver in their loyalty, unwilling to support his bold strokes of leadership. A familiar face appears amidst the chaos, his brother John, eyes blazing not with the fire of loyalty, but with a glint of self-preservation. "You've led us into a trap, Richard," he screams, his voice laced with a bitter tang of betrayal. "We cannot win. We should retreat." It cuts deep, this fracture among brothers. Richard's stomach churns. He sees the fear in John's eyes, the uncertainty that has gripped the core of his army, and he wonders, had his ambition driven them to this point? "Stand with me!" Richard roars, but there is no response. He feels the ground beneath him shift as doubts solidify into reality. His men, once emboldened by his vision, are beginning to break. The price of his decisions weighs heavy, and he can't shake the dread that he may have led them to their doom. As the sun sets on the bloodied battlefield, Richard feels an emptiness clawing at his soul. The conquest he envisioned has turned into an insurmountable loss, not just of land, but of hope and unity. The cries of his men echo in his ears as he gazes at the chaos that was once the promise of a victorious dawn. What is power if it cannot unite, if it only serves to isolate? Richard is forced to confront the reality of leadership, a lesson woven tightly with ambition and hubris. In his drive to reclaim glory for himself and for Christendom, he has overlooked the very essence of kingship, the strength of camaraderie, the bonds of loyalty that must anchor a leader. The cost of his dreams has been steep. In a society where the thirst for power often blinds the powerful, he stands alone, a king who has tasted the bitterness of failure. The shadows of betrayal linger, a reminder that decisions made in the heat of battle can echo through the ages, defining not just a king, but a legacy. Richard the Lionheart stares into the horizon, the weight of his choices heavy upon his shoulders. The lines between ambition and ambition gone awry blur, and he knows this moment will haunt him, not just as a warrior, but as a man who sought to be more than a conqueror. The journey ahead is uncertain, yet the lessons learned will carve his path forward, urging him to seek redemption in a world filled with both glory and